Welcome survivors to the first video in a series intended to go over the entirety of ARK the Animated Series, which is currently airing on Paramount+. Whether you're a longtime fan of the games, or wondering what the hell just happened in that show you watched, good old nanOS is here to break down everything about the first episode of ARK the Animated Series, and ARK Survival Ascended's Dear Jane Explorer Notes, which are canonical to, and run concurrently with the animated series. Of course, this video will contain spoilers for both the show and the game, so with that spoiler warning out of the way, the video starts now. Episode 1 begins on the ocean floor, as the animated series logo takes the form of some underwater rocks. Coelacanths swim by as the camera pans upwards and towards the form of someone floating beneath the waves.
What will I do without you?
Most of you will immediately recognize this as Helena Walker, the main character of ARK's collectible Explorer Notes, which chronicle the game's story and lore. Just as soon as she surfaces, Helena is chased away to the shore of a nearby beach by a megalodon, who, in turn, is dragged away by a massive lead Sichthys. In a reference to the in-game spawning cutscene, Helena takes note of the specimen implant embedded in her arm. She's then startled by a wild dodo, so badly that her feet actually disappear in this scene. I hate it when that happens.
Hi there. I won't hurt you. You've got some explaining to do, little friend.
You mind not domesticating my dinner there?
We're then introduced to Bob, a character who's a direct stand-in for the ARK player base as a whole. This is because, back in the olden days of ARK Survival Evolved, the default survivor preset would always be named Bob or Jane for men and women respectively. Someone then eventually went on to coin the term Beach Bob for newer players specifically, and it's stuck ever since.
Your dinner is Rhaphis cucullatus, which hasn't been seen alive for 300 years. This creature is a miracle, and you think it's dinner?
Bob, wholly unimpressed with Helena's antics, offers to show her around the island. Though reluctant at first, Helena accepts his offer, and throws on some women's clothing he very conveniently had on him for whatever reason. Shortly thereafter, Helena finds herself distracted by the presence of an Akatina near the edge of the jungle. As you'll soon come to see, this specific creature will have major significance later in the episode.
There was a 90-foot cliff, and the roar of the naval guns firing on the crowds. But you could feel the explosions in your chest. Just as we were about to make landfall, there was a bright light and a loud sound. And then I woke up here.
And you were there, at Normandy. That's impossible. That happened in 1944.
For me, that was 2 weeks ago.
Bob's origin story as one of the heroes who stormed Normandy during World War II brings several things into question, mainly how he found himself on the island in the first place. If you're familiar with the game's continuity, you'd know that this is possible because of a little something called the engrammic matrix, a fictional part of the human brain that was discovered in the far future, which stores a person's memories and personality. When preserved under the right conditions, an engrammic matrix can be scanned and used in tandem with cloning tech to essentially respawn human beings.
What about you?
I'm from the 21st century.
So you must know how the war ends. You're Australian, right? One of the good guys. Do we?
Yeah, we win.
We win. We should get moving.
Bob catching his hatchet here is a reference to the hatchet's in-game equipping animation, which was also referenced in the ARK 2 trailer, way back in 2020. Trailing Bob through the jungle, Helena is awestruck at the sight of the island's thriving, prehistoric ecosystem.
I can't believe it.
believe it.
Wow.
This transitions us to the first of many flashback sequences, which the animated series uses to flesh out its cast of characters and their motives through their past lives. Here, we see Helena anxiously waiting to deliver a speech at the University of Sydney, which, might I add, is actually a real-world university you could go out and visit yourself. If you listen closely to the background speaker in this scene, you'll learn that Helena was raised by a single mother who had previously worked at the university, and that the reason she's there is because of her groundbreaking research in the fields of paleontology, archaeology, and geochemistry. Which is cool to learn, because in the game's continuity, Helena is described as more of a surface-level biologist than anything. Helena receives reassurance via text and in the audience from her wife Victoria, who gives her the courage she needs to get out onto the stage and speak to the crowd.
According to selection theory, a creature's heritable traits, including its mental aspects, are an adaptation to the demands of its ecological situation. But what if natural selection was not the only mechanism of evolution? The epigenome, the protective package of proteins cocooned by DNA, absorbs this influence and in turn determines which genes are expressed. It is accepted that all raptors were best suited to see at night and had poor daytime vision. But we found significant variability based on environmental factors. What a creature eats, its behaviors, both intrinsic and extrinsic. The data gathered from dinosaur fossils reveals that these traits are inherited in a lasting manner.
This entire scene foreshadows the existence of engramic matrices, and how they can be used to later clone humans through the concept of genetic memory. A theory which essentially states that memories can be, in a way, passed down from generation to generation, affecting evolution in a similar way to natural selection. Negative reception from the crowd forces Helena to spiral, but thanks to Victoria's mantra, "You're here, I'm here," she's able to end the speech on a high note.
I'm proud of you. I couldn't have done it without you. And you'll never have to.
Back again to the present day, Helena continues to follow Bob deeper into the jungle, until they come across a wild parasaur wounded by an arrow. Though Bob suggests putting the dinosaur out of its misery, Helena insists on saving its life.
You think I can't take care of myself?
I know you can't.
Help me with this. Come on.
Unbelievable.
Upon dislodging the arrow from the parasaur's side, Helena names him Scary, before he retreats back into the jungle. Bob questions how Helena's so knowledgeable, to which she responds,
It is my job. I'm a professor of paleontology at the University of Sydney. I study the fossils of creatures like that one.
You're a professor?
I don't see why that should be so shocking.
Well, you're, a
Bob really is an accurate representation of the general ARK player base, as his uncouth sexism is quickly cut short by an arrow through the back of his neck, as a lone woman riding a tamed raptor approaches Helena from the jungle, readying another shot. This raptor's color scheme is not only identical to the one seen in the original animated series teaser trailer, also from 2020, but it's also the default color scheme of the animated raptor skin that was released as a part of the in-game animated series ad campaign for Survival Evolved. Stumbling through the foliage, raptor rider in hot pursuit, Helena trips down the side of a hill and into the outskirts of a village being actively raided by a tribe known as the New Legion. Ruthless conquerors with the goal of becoming not only the most powerful tribe on the island, but the only tribe on the island. Observing the scene smugly from atop a triceratops is Sir Edmund Rockwell, arguably the animated series' most altered character from the game's original 4, but I'll get to that later. After being called over by a Scottish boy in hiding, Helena uses a metal shield dropped by a new Legionnaire in combination with ARK's infamous subtle glare effect to blind an approaching raptor, catching the attention of Edmund in the process. She inevitably gets captured by Ebola though, alongside the Scottish boy, but not before knocking away a Legionnaire with a giant rock.
No!
We're then met with another flashback between Helena and Victoria, except this time everything seems somber. Instead of going to China's Liaoning province for another archaeological dig after Helena's speech at the University of Sydney, Victoria is planning to travel overseas to provide humanitarian aid during an unnamed civil war, despite Helena's protests.
I'm so sorry I'll miss China. But hey, think of all that you'll get done while I'm gone. Full night's sleep without me snoring. Full days to work on finishing your beautiful storybook side project. And this time, without me blundering in, carrying bags of roadside oranges and tickets to concerts for bands you hate.
If you look closely, Helena and Victoria's house is chock full of prehistoric memorabilia. From Helena's dinosaur-themed shirt and slippers to the dinosaur clock on the living room wall. For whatever reason, they decided to end this flashback with a fart joke, which automatically makes this my least favorite scene in all of the animated series. Coming to inside a tent, Helena is met face to face with Sir Edmund Rockwell.
Honored member of the Royal Academy of Sciences of Her Majesty's Empire, the year of our Lord, 1890.
There are several important pieces of information strewn about Rockwell's living quarters, such as this research book titled Deciphering the Writings of Those Who Came Before, which includes 9 different symbols that translate to regeneration, all, life, eternal, restore, dead, pathway, arc, and record respectively. Not only that, but the page also includes a count of days, 2,345 to be precise, meaning that Edmund has been on the island for at least 6.5 years. Another important detail is this mysterious drawing of a young girl named Charlotte. We don't know much about Charlotte, other than that she was important to Edmund's past life in some way, and that she likely died well before her time. She's likely going to be a crucial element in Edmund's character arc, and I do have a few theories as to how exactly, but I'm gonna hold on to those ideas for later episodes.
Where am I?
What a pity that one of the first questions you ask me, I, alas, cannot answer. No one knows where, or indeed what, this place is. Some think it to be the afterlife, and others purgatory. But I call it the Ark.
It's unclear to me how exactly Edmund knows that the island is called an Ark, as it hasn't quite been spelled out in the animated series yet. In the game's continuity, he learned of the name through his assistant Gerald, who studied the specimen implants from corpses the two of them found around the island. Exiting the tent, Edmund leads Helena through the New Legion compound, describing to her his worldview of the island along the way, describing it as a crucible from which he must learn its secrets. After witnessing a feeding pit full of raptors, Helena expresses her disdain for how the compound's dinosaurs and prisoners are being treated.
You speak as a woman who has been educated in the sciences.
I am.
Then surely you can see what we have at work here are the scientific principles of natural selection in their purest form. Survival of the fittest.
This line, while directly referring to how Edmund views life on the island, is also a cheeky reference to ARK's now twice abandoned Battle Royale, Survival of the Fittest. Helena then turns around, mortified, to see a Legionnaire whipping Scary, who I guess had also been captured, into submission.
Tell me then, from what enlightened era do you join us? Your face so clean and your eyes so bright and full of life. None of that impertinence now.
This scene in specific really goes on to differentiate the animated series depiction of Edmund from how he's described in the Explorer notes. As in the game, he's more so Helena's snobbish elderly scientific ally than whatever he is here, at least in the earlier notes. Edmund demands that Helena behave herself and help him to understand the Ark's dinosaurs, to which she responds with a headbutt, knocking him to the ground. She's then chased through the compound by the New Legion until she's stopped by their leader, Gaius Marcellus Nerva.
Please!
Reprehende, bestia pericans! Ventri dolor hoc non valet.
See, placet! Awe Rome fili matis miles.
Nerva lambasts Edmund for getting his ass beat, and sends Helena to be held with the rest of the compound's prisoners, where she reunites with Jamie, the Scottish boy from earlier. Similarly to Bob, he recounts his final memories leading up to his death in 1746. But before Helena can recount hers, the two prisoners are interrupted by Edmund.
Your insolence deserves correction. Yes. Yes, I can see this. I wonder how best to discourage such undesirable behavior. A visceral reminder should do.
The prisoners look onwards in horror as Jamie is pulled out and into the open towards a Rex. On Edmund's word, Jamie is fed to the Rex as Helena is forced to watch.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee.
Only those who know their place will survive.
God, brave me.
Edmund's character during this entire sequence is jarring, to say the least, as aforementioned, he never acted even remotely similar in his explorer notes on the island. He may have had similar moments during later DLC storylines, but to see him act so antagonistic towards Helena this early into the animated series is a massive departure from his original interpretation as a whole. Oh, and Jamie's death here is a reference to the deaths of Spear's family in Primal.
You have this girl to thank for the demonstration. Disobedience will be purged.
I hope you learned a lesson today, Helena.
Day turns to night as Helena cries herself to sleep in the corner of the cage, flashing back to another memory from before her time on the island. Based on the calendar, the date is May 2nd, 2010, just under a month before Victoria is set to return from overseas. We see Helena putting the finishing touches on her children's book, Dinosaurs Through Time, which is directly referencing the in-game creature dossiers she would go on to make during her time on the Arks. That's not the only piece of foreshadowing this scene has to offer though, as the trilobite tattoo Helena and Victoria share on their left wrist is actually located where all survivors' specimen implants go, as seen when Helena first washes up on the island's beaches. Right above her tattoo is an aboriginal wristband, which will not only be important in future episodes, but is also missing in the scene before. And there are several more pieces of prehistoric memorabilia behind Helena's desk. Helena is interrupted by a ringing at her door, and when she opens it, she's met with two AFP officers with news of Victoria's death.
We believe she was killed. We're hearing over the cams that a broadcast, a claim of her murder.
She had been killed via gunshot in the yet-to-be-named civil war that Helena so desperately didn't want her to be a part of. Drowning in her sorrow, Helena jolts awake and is accompanied by another prisoner.
I'm sorry, I don't understand.
This not being subtitled means that Helena speaks English, Latin, and later Chinese, but not Finnish, and translates to, "I could hear your empty stomach from over there." After accepting some Tinto berries from the prisoner, Scary approaches the cage under the cover of darkness, having broken free from capture.
Scary? How did you get free? Go on, someone might find you.
Sometime later, Helena is escorted by Edmund and a group of new legionnaires to Nerva's quarters. As she's leaving, the Finnish prisoner says to Helena, "If you will have a second death, make it a good death. There is nothing else to fear." Nerva's quarters are filled with trophies of his conquest and memories of his homeland in Rome. When Helena is led into the tent, Nerva's holding a wooden figure of a woman, presumably his lover, Cassia Virilla, who despite being listed as a character voiced by Monica Bellucci, doesn't actually make an appearance in the first core of Season 1. She most certainly plays a large part in Nerva's motivations as a character, but we likely won't learn more about her until Core 2, whenever that may be.
Gratias, Domine Tibiago.
Bonds for such a little puella. Rockwell must have found you dangerous indeed.
Before leaving, the Legionnaires do a similar salute to the one seen in-game. Now alone, both Helena and Nerva discuss their past lives and how they came to find themselves on the island. Naturally, Nerva's interest is piqued by Helena's knowledge of the Ark's dinosaurs, in a scene reminiscent to a series of events near the end of the island's Explorer Notes, where Nerva elects to follow Helena's superior understanding of the Ark's obelisks over Rockwell's. But we have yet to get that far in the animated series.
Perhaps my ways appear uncivilized to your eyes.
I have seen much in my travels, Dominus. But I have never seen anything like this place.
Well, know this. Whatever I must do, I will do. The world that I know is not your world, and it does not share your moralities.
More than anyone, Nerva seems to long for his home and who he believes to await him there. This is solidified when he presents the first of 3 artifacts to Helena, ancient devices which are rumored to grant their wielder with an unknown, legendary power and the ability to leave the Ark behind. This is a simplification of the 10 artifacts which can be found on the island in the game.
I will return to the Rome of my time at the head of an army the likes of which no empire has ever seen. Caesar himself will bow before me, and I will sweep aside the corrupt elite, making way for a new order in which any man of strength can be.
You were speaking of the legends, Dominus?
You little viper, you think to poison my wine?
All of a sudden, Nerva flies into a rage and lumbers towards Helena, accusing her of having poisoned his wine. He snatches back the artifact, but quickly comes under the effects of paralysis before being able to land a killing blow on Helena. As it would turn out, Nerva was only half correct, as Helena had used the Achatina she had been carrying with her this entire time to taint the rim of his wine glass with the snail's toxic excretions, in what is likely a reference to the lethal organic polymer resource found in-game.
Not enough to kill you, but enough for a few hours of paralysis.
Artifact in hand, Helena steals an empty journal from Nerva and runs back out into the compound. There, she scavenges some scraps of meat from a nearby butcher in an attempt to lure out the New Legion's raptors. Helena's effort is cut short though, as Edmund chokes her into submission with his cane.
Guards! Get up. Get up.
Sacking her aggressors with the bag of raw meat sends the raptors into a frenzy as they break through their confinement and ravage the compound. Fun fact, said raptors also use their secondary pounce attack from the game several times during this sequence. Just as Helena's about to become a 5-star dino buffet, Scary the Parasaur once again returns to send this raptor flying into a nearby tent. Sucks to be whoever was in there at that particular moment in time.
Scary! We have to free the prisoners.
In the pretty brutal scene, we actually see the raptor rider who killed Bob towards the beginning of the episode get what looks to be their arm ripped off and eaten by another raptor. This was totally a missed opportunity to have her get killed by the same raptor she was riding earlier, just saying. Helena and Scary successfully free the prisoners, to which the Finnish woman says, "With gratitude, great warrior." And they reunite with Dodo moments before Nerva regains bodily function, just in time for him to make a Jurassic Park reference.
Clever. never enough.
Clever girl.
The Centurion gives Helena chase through the ruined compound, but is outpaced by Scary, who knocks away Edmund and one of the Legionnaires on his way out.
She's getting away. That witch. I warned you, Mother. She's like nothing we've ever seen before. A traveler with such knowledge.
She stole the artifact. She stole my way home. I will capture her. And once I've conquered Rome, I'll take her world as well. I will take everything from her.
Wounded and exhausted, Helena is led through the jungle on the back of Scary as she's inundated with memories of New Year's Eve 2018. Sitting in her living room, wine and medication strewn across her table, Helena shuts her laptop and drags herself to bed, where she lies depressed, reminiscing over the memories of her and Victoria. Bleeding out at the edge of a jungle clearing, Helena closes her eyes and accepts the inevitable. Her original cause of death is then revealed to have been via overdose. Without Victoria there for her, for 8 years, Helena had been forced to rely on pills and alcohol to cope with her loss, ultimately leading up to her death on the 31st of December, 2018. This date, originally given to us in the animated series, actually went on to retcon Helena's original date of death in the game, which is implied to have been sometime in 2008.
I'm here. You're here.
Just before the darkness could creep in and take her for a second time, Victoria's voice rings through Helena's mind, giving her the courage she needs to get up off the ground and pull the spear from her body in one triumphant motion. Falling to her knees at the edge of a lake, blood dripping down her shoulder and sunrise peeking through the tree line, Helena has but one thing to say to this island.
I'm going to survive.
And thus ends episode 1 of the animated series, though there are still several more Easter eggs and additional details I have yet to break down, starting with the credits. As a form of addendum to each episode, the credits give additional context to events taking place in the story, through still images made to mimic Helena's Explorer Note illustrations from the game, going so far as to use the model for said notes. The first of these images shows Helena and Dodo observing some dinosaur bones in the wild, something which would obviously intrigue Helena, taking into account her past occupation as a paleontologist. The second is of Bob begrudgingly stuffing his face with berries besides Dodo, which calls back to a joke at the very start of the episode.
Sick of eating berries.
The third shows Dodo having been knocked unconscious by the Acatina's toxic excretions, whereas illustration 4 sees Nerva overlooking a fallen Legionnaire after the uprising. And the fifth has Edmund experimenting with what looks to be an artifact of some kind, though it's stated earlier by Nerva that the other two artifacts were in the hands of his enemies, so if anything, this could just be a stray piece of tech Edmund found somewhere on the Ark. Illustration 6 shows Edmund and the Legionnaires capturing a Giganotosaurus in some sort of cave. Note the stalagmites. This one is especially cool due to the importance this Giga will have in the core finale. The seventh has a butcher from the New Legion compound hiding behind his workstation from two raptors, in what is most definitely a reference to the kitchen chase scene from Jurassic Park. And the final, 8th illustration shows Scary, Dodo, and Helena resting beneath a tree sometime after she had removed the spear from her shoulder. What was that? Who's Snail Games? Oh, we don't talk about them. I do wonder if these drawings were imitated in Helena's art style by another artist, or if the team behind the animated series actually brought on the original to make them. Either way, the callback to Helena's Explorer Notes is super cool. Not to mention that the backing track that's used here aptly named End Credits, is also the same one which plays at the end of The Island, Scorched Earth, and Aberration in-game. As for Dear Jane, I couldn't really think of a good place to interject it into the breakdown since there's so much for me to explain at the start of the first episode specifically, so I'll just put it at the end here and splice it into every other breakdown afterwards. Dear Jane is an ARK Survival Ascended exclusive event, which ran from Thursday, March 21st to Thursday, April 11th in 2024, where every Tuesday and Thursday, one new Explorer note written and narrated from the perspective of Bob would be added to the island, around its various default spawn points, which, for obvious reasons, is a reference in and of itself to the concept of a beach bob, spawning on the beach and all. Dear Jane notes not only give players free animated skins, but a look into a side story canonical to and set in the world of the animated series, which spans from a time before the first episode right up until the final episode, and is likely going to be continued with Core 2 of the TV show. Dear Jane 1 sees Bob writing to his wife Jane after washing ashore the island and finding a homemade typewriter and camera.
Dear Jane, you're probably not gonna be seeing me around the 4th of July picnic after all. Sure wish I'd gotten around to writing before now, cause I doubt there's mail service home from wherever it is I found myself. Some tropical island and God knows where. That's not me trying to keep secrets. I figure you must have heard by now that I never made it ashore in Normandy anyway. Nope, no ratsies here. But just about everyone and everything else is trying its damnedest to kill me. Get this, there are living, breathing dinosaurs on this island. I can guess what you must be thinking right about now. Bobby's gone clear off his rocker. But I'm writing you hand on heart. Swear on my dear mama's grave. Somehow, those things are still walking around here, just as alive as I am. Makes about as much sense as me finding this handmade camera and typewriter just lying around on the beach. But maybe these picture postcards will prove I ain't making any of this up. They do say seeing's believing, right? Anyway, I'm still trying to work it all out myself. But I promise you, I'm gonna find a way home. And picnic or not, we'll make some fireworks together when I do. I'll write you again soon, Janie. But just now, I think I hear a dinosaur clucking in the bushes. I'm so hungry, Bob. P.S. Tell Bill he still owes me that 20 from the big New Year's poker game. We ain't waiting till 1945 to collect.
Dear Jane 2 is set 2 weeks after Dear Jane 1, shortly after Bob had met Helena on the beach.
Now, Jane, before you get all wound up about me spending time with some castaway girl, let me just say, you got nothing to worry about on that score. It's more like when your folks used to make us take your know-it-all kid sister along with us everywhere. You know, a real pain in the ass. She just washed up on my beach, and boy, does it show. Doubt the girl would last half a day on this island if I wasn't here to babysit her. She's too damn soft. The very first time I saw her, she kept me from catching some squab for dinner. And suddenly I've got some brat lecturing me about how her precious new pet's the last of its kind. Wants me to take her seriously, like she's some kind of expert. All she has to do is look around. I mean, those fat little birds are all over the place here. I haven't even told you the nuttiest part. How she claims to be from the future? At least she says the good guys won. Which means you stayed safe and sound stateside. Either way, I thought I better show the girl what we're dealing with here. Man-eating monsters, floating sky things, the whole 9 yards. But maybe I shouldn't have rushed her. She's been just staring at all of it. Long enough for me to take her picture and write you this note. But don't worry, I promise I won't let her slow me down too much. Nothing's keeping me from getting back to your home cooking. Save me some, baby. Bob.
Of course, we know that shortly after this, Bob takes an arrow to the neck, but there are still 5 more Dear Jane Explorer notes after this, which I'll be showcasing and dissecting chronologically as they pick back up in episode 2. And with that, this has been a full breakdown of ARK the Animated Series Season 1 Episode 1. If you think I missed anything, let me know in the comments below, and I'll make sure to give it a heart. As always, thanks for watching. Leave a like if you liked the video, subscribe if you'd like to see more, and be sure to join my Ark Lore Discord from the description of this video if you'd like to join Red Gear and I's Survival Ascended community cluster, hosted by the wonderful I Don't Skate. I'd like to give an extra thank you to my Patreons for the continued support of the channel, including, but not limited to, Nathan Hildebrandt and Hano Quest of the Ascended Survivor tier. See you in the next one, survivors.
Never go